Week 16 is here. We have a great slate of games, some of which are starting on Saturday. Phenomenal matchups all across the board, so let's get right into it. Starting off, Texans visiting Arrowhead Stadium. And the story about this game is going to be if Patrick Mahomes is able to play, make his way onto the field, and lead the Chiefs. That man's a big old faker, I tell you what. Every day, every year, every month or so, he's faking the limp, hobbling off the field, taking the fourth quarter off a blown out game he doesn't want to be involved in, and then a week later, oh yeah, he's a full participant in practice. Surprise, surprise. Mahomes is currently scheduled to play. If there's any questions about him playing, I'd say maybe just take it easy, let him sit on the bench, watch this one. Chiefs might be able to win without him with how bad the Texans' offensive line is. I really do think the Texans' offense will struggle. The Chiefs are exceptional at layering their coverages, disguising their safeties behind their linebackers. CJ Stroud has gotten his eyes fooled multiple times this year doing that. And I think the Chiefs will get an interception. They'll force a ton of turnovers. I think they're getting one this week. I don't think the Texans' offense is going to move the ball well at all. I think even if it's Carson Wentz in there, the Chiefs are just going to be able to pound it out, get something going on the ground. And unless the Texans can really victimize the Chiefs' target tackle situation, they'll get 20, 25 points, which will be more than enough with how great their defense is to beat the Texans. So even without Mahomes, I'm going with the Chiefs.
You calling Mahomes a faker, and then we got that bad accent over there.
What are you talking about? I was just in Texas.
The hypocrisy
Here
from
in your
that
little
side of the room.
pickleball. Sure, I bet you never played pickleball, son.
I pickle some balls.
I don't think you do. Maybe some moose balls, but that's on your own personal liking.
Yeah, both these teams, they've been in ugly games this year. The Texans more than the Chiefs. And these teams, I think their weakness...
Hold on, all the time. I don't want to interrupt you. All the Chiefs have been in is ugly games, son. Every single game the Chiefs have been involved in has been an ugly game.
Stop distracting from my train of thought. These teams' weaknesses, I think, play to the other team's strengths perfectly, which is going to lead to a low-scoring game, which has been very typical of these teams this season. The Texans' interior defensive line has not been playing at a high level. There's a reason that CJ Stroud is the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, he's playing behind an offensive line. If it is him that is taking snaps, that does not have the greatest offensive tackles in the world. And the Texans have two edge rushers that are top 10 in the NFL in sacks, so they can get to the quarterback at a high level. The reason I'm picking the Chiefs, just as you are in this game, is that they have shown a better ability to win games when it is close. They only have one loss on the season, and over their last 5 games, the Texans haven't exactly been executing at a high level. They're 2-3 with losses to the Jets and the Titans. So if they can't finish a team off like the Jets or the Titans, how are they going to be able to beat the Chiefs?
I mean, is that like a rhetorical question you want me to answer? They can beat the Chiefs by sacking the hell out of Patrick Mahomes or Carson Wentz. That's a strategy. They can get in from behind, force a turnover off that, then they can get something going. Again, I think the Chiefs will win. Arrowhead Stadium, short week, better coaching staff over there on the Chiefs. I'll give them the edge, but there is a path to victory like there is for most teams who play the Chiefs. I digress. We're getting a little bit too bogged down.
Can we change the accent for each game based on the region of the country, the winner or maybe the loser you're picking, depending?
I got no idea what you're talking about, son. This is how I talk.
Steelers headed to Baltimore, and Steelers fans, once again, they're going to lambast me for just being a hater and not thinking the Steelers can win this game. They're going to point out Lamar is 1-4 against the Steelers. But I'm still going to pick the Ravens to win. Last time around, it took 6 field goals from this Steelers team to beat the Ravens just to win by 2 points when Justin Tucker was out there missing kicks. And there's a very key player that the Steelers will likely be missing heading into this game, at least as of the time we're recording it, and his name is George Pickens. This offense is just not the same with him on the field. Their run game is only averaging 3.9 yards a carry, which is 30th in the NFL. So when you're a team that moves the ball in very small chunks, and then you're missing the best player on your offense, who gives your offense that over-the-top big playability, it is going to be hard for you to keep up with an offense like the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, I could name 12 players that are very productive on the Ravens offense. Due to the Steelers missing George Pickens, it is going to allow the Ravens to make some plays, and I don't think, like we saw the last time around, we're going to have a Steelers defense making miraculous diving interceptions where they're ripping the ball out of Justice Hill's hands.
Yeah, a lot wrong with that. Starting these off, you did a very nice job with the straw man you constructed at the start of that. I don't think the Steelers fans are that convinced they're going to win this game due to some of the reasons you point out, with Pickens not playing, with TJ Watt potentially not playing. They realize they're going into a hostile environment against a good team shorthanded, and they saw what happened last week. They know where they're at this point in the year. Second off, Justin Tucker is still going to be kicking for the Baltimore Ravens unless they made a move in the practice facility, having Lamar go back there and line up some 40-yarders. That is still going to be a part of this game. And he could still very well miss quite a few easy kicks. And third, the best player on the Steelers offense is playing. His name's Zach Frazier, rookie center, playing at a legitimate all-pro level. Fantastic stuff from him. Steelers absolutely crushed that draft pick. But I kind of agree with you. I don't think the Steelers have it this week. I don't think their fans are going to be that upset. Their loss on this game is going to lose them their top spot in the AFC North. But still a good team, just coming into it short-handed. Their offense one-dimensional, unless Michael Williams can get it going, which that'd be a refreshing breath of fresh air from Mr. Williams. I just don't see it happen. But I'm also picking the Ravens to win. The Steelers receiving room's devastated. It just ain't going to work. The Atlanta Falcons are starting this game off as a 2-score favorite, which is odd considering the quarterback they're rolling into this game has never started before in the NFL. But when you compare him to Tim Boyle, that's not a surprise. I'm a little bit shocked it's not 3 scores. This game is going to be a blowout. The Falcons offense by itself is more talented than the entirety of that Giants team right now. Guys like Malik Neighbors are just out there to accumulate stats, make a Mickey Mouse Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign. It ain't happening. Giants offense ain't doing nothing with Tim Boyle unless he can show off that 40-inch vertical by hopping over the offensive line and carrying the ball 50 yards to the end zone. They ain't scoring. But not much needs to be said about this game. The Giants are the worst team in football right now. I don't think anyone would really dispute that. And the Falcons are winning. Good for Michael Penix.
The Falcons losing this game would be pure comedy considering they just benched Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. If he has an extremely poor performance, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it wouldn't be surprising if the owner fired the general manager and fired Raheem Morris, and then they were stuck in another rebuild. Maybe they'll draft 3 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds next season because you got to hit on one eventually. With that being said, the Giants, if you take a look at their depth chart on ESPN, it is comical how many players are listed as questionable or on the IR. They didn't have a great team to begin with, so that makes matters worse. They have 4 quarterbacks that might play in this game. All of them are banged up with injury, I think, besides maybe Tim Boyle. Drew Lock is starting the game. We'll get Tommy DeVito at some point. Maybe we have an emergency 4th-string quarterback. Maybe we'll see Tyrone Tracy taking snaps.
You think Dale Jones is willing to hop on a flight and come back into town for this one?
Maybe he might be.
I think he's okay where he's at. I think he's won more games in the past 2 weeks of the Vikings than he did all year of the Giants.
At this point, we may as well pay the $30 million man in Brian Burns to take snaps at quarterback.
Hell, you're paying him quarterback money. You're paying him Myles Garrett money. Why not?
The Falcons, they have the run game. For people that are Bijan Robinson owners, matching up against the Giants who don't have a great run defense comes in perfectly for your fantasy football playoffs. I think the Falcons are just going to dominate on the ground, allow Michael Penix to ease into the game via the run game and the play action, and they're going to win the game.
I don't know about play action. Didn't run a ton of that at Washington. I'm curious how the Giants defense was so bad when they had Dexter Lawrence starting for them at nose tackle in the run game, and I'm curious if it's gotten worse. I'll be honest, maybe I'm a casual. I've not kept up with the New York Giants recently. I've not paid much attention to the outcome of their games. Has it gotten any better? Has Dexter Lawrence being off the field somehow miraculously helped this team?
It has not gotten any better.
Sad.
Just like your accent.
Now it's getting better by the second, son.
Cardinals, they're headed to Carolina to take on the Panthers. And while we've gotten a little excited about the Panthers because Bryce Young has actually shown some semblance of being a number 1 overall pick, some bright spots, this Panthers team is still a really bad team. I mean, you take a look at their defense over the last 4 weeks, 30 points to the Chiefs, 26 points to the Bucks, 22 points and 6.7 yards per carry allowed to the Eagles. This Cardinals team, they take advantage of bad teams. They've put up 29 points on the Bears, 30 points on the Patriots, 31 points on the Jets. Against teams that don't have a good defense, they bring it to them. Playing competent teams is a different story, but I fully expect Kyler Murray, James Conner, Trey McBride, that whole offense to put up 30-plus points in this game.
Do we think Trey McBride finally gets the monkey off his back and gets a touchdown this week, or is that still just not happening this year? Is the bit going to continue where he gets 1,000 yards as a tight end and 0 touchdowns? You know, going into the year, I said Marvin Harrison Jr. was not going to have much of a competition for receiving touchdowns. I did not think it would be due to Trey McBride catching 0. I thought he was the only other one. Yeah, as much as I like Bryce Young, I think he's going to perform relatively well against this Cardinals defense, which has started to slack off a little bit in recent weeks. The gaps in the zone have been found, and Young is good at exploiting those gaps. I don't think they've got it in them. I don't think they're going to be able to get Chuba Hubbard going. I don't think Coker, I don't think Leggett, I don't think Thielen's going to be able to do all that much. I think Young's going to get sacked because they're going to blitz the hell out of him this week. But having said that, I just can't. I cannot pick straight favorites to win every single game this week. So I'm turning it around. I'm putting it in reverse. I'm saying Bryce Young bounces back in a big way. Got beaten up by the Cowboys? Hey, everyone gets beaten up by the Cowboys. There's just something about him. He is not going to have 2 stinkers in a row. That Bryce Young, dead, buried, gone. The new Bryce Young is coming back with some heat. 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns, maybe an interception or 2. We can ignore those. Kyler Murray, shell-shocked. How can a short quarterback be hanging in the pocket and picking the defense apart? Completely malfunctions. And Bryce Young and the Panthers cruise to a win.
You seem to miss the part or what Cardinals do to teams that just are not good.
I was listening to you. Don't pay much attention, but I did hear what you're saying. I don't care what the Cardinals do. Again, Kyler Murray is going to be so shell-shocked by seeing a 5'9" pocket passer, he's just going to melt down and throw 5 interceptions. We are picking the Panthers. Lions, Bears. If you're picking the Bears, I feel bad for you, but the line on this one's an entire touchdown. I don't think the Lions cover that. I think Caleb Williams has a better game this week than he did last week against the Vikings, against a really depleted Lions defense. I think he gets something going. I think he finds Keenan Allen deep. Someone runs a crisp route somewhere and gets open. They score some points. Swift gets active in the run game as the Lions defense just continues to fall down the statistical rabbit hole. Lions offense is going to score some points, of course, but it's going to be in Chicago. It's going to be outside. Jared Goff's not great in those environments. And overall, I'm still picking Detroit due to their bolstered running game, due to the strength of Jahmyr Gibbs in that offensive line. But I think this one's going to be kind of close.
The Bears, they've been worse since they fired Eberflus, which really makes sense when you take a look at it. I mean, firing your offensive coordinator, promote your passing game coordinator, then you fire your head coach, who's also your defensive coordinator. There's no continuity within that organization. I'm sure there's a lot of talking heads trying to be leaders, whether it be the players or the 2 guys who were nominated mid-season as the head coach and defensive coordinator to call plays.
You think Rome Odunze's dad's trying to get in the locker room and make his opinions heard?
Rome Odunze may be vying for a coaching position at this point because his son, he should be a 1,300-yard receiver. They don't have a lot going on. The Lions, I understand they have a lot of players injured on defense. I think they're
22.
I think they're leading the NFL with IR and PUP list players.
It's bad. It's bad.
But that doesn't really matter when their offense is as good as it is. Their offense, the Bills' offense, they're top 2 in the NFL in points scored. Both these teams, it sometimes doesn't matter how many points you give up on defense when your offense is capable of scoring 40 points any given week, especially against the Bears team that is just in turmoil. I would love to be a fly on the wall in the Bears building just to know what truly is going down in that wide receiver room, in that coach's room, in the quarterback room when they're breaking down games and what they should do next week. The Lions, they're going to go into Soldier Field and still win.
I am curious to see what the Lions offense looks like without Jahmyr Gibbs. That is going to be the most intriguing storyline coming out.
Jahmyr Gibbs is healthy.
David Montgomery, excuse me. What are they? Sonic and Knuckles? I think Jahmyr Gibbs is Sonic. Montgomery's no. I'm curious what they look like without their big bruising power back. I'm sure they've got someone who can pound it up the middle on that team. They're probably not going to use Gibbs in that role, though he is going to get a few more carries up the middle. That's going to be the interesting part. They can roll with Gibbs as their number 1 running back, and he really does break out, take that next superstar step. The Lions offense will be fine. If they struggle a little bit, not feeling too good about their chances to nab the 1 seed. But I digress.
The Titans are just a pathetic organization. They're trying to take on the Colts this week, and Titans fans, they said I was crazy before the season, saying this team would be marred by dysfunction. Firing Mike Vrabel I said it was a mistake. They called me crazy, and I've been proven right on every single element of the Titans season. The wide receiver signings they made don't really matter. Will Levis is not that guy, and they're benching Will Levis for Mason Rudolph, who's incredibly less talented and physically gifted in a lost season. They only have 3 wins at this point. The only reason Mason Rudolph maybe looked better than Will Levis last week was because they were taking on the Bengals defense, and he is not going to be able to beat a Colts team that should have won last week if Jonathan Taylor doesn't throw the ball out of the back of the end zone. So the Colts are at home. I think Anthony Richardson and that offense will be able to do enough to get the Colts to their 7th win.
Hey man, you watched the Broncos game, right? You saw how that one went. It wasn't just Jonathan Taylor throwing the ball out of the end zone, and that was the final play of the game. What happened after that is a sign of extreme dysfunction. You talk about the dysfunction of the Tennessee Titans. The second half of that game, once Taylor fumbled that touchdown, everything fell apart, and you just don't bounce back from that in 1 week. I'm by no means sticking up for the Titans here, but at the same time, they've got some bright spots on their defense. Everything went wrong for Indianapolis. They let Bo Nix throw 3 touchdowns in the second half after picking him off 3 times. They completely shut down their running game. Anthony Richardson looked completely lost out there once again. He's just not that guy. This entire Colts team is still reeling from what happened, and I think that brings them right down to the Titans level. Looking at Mason Rudolph, you say less physically talented. Aaron Rodgers is way more physically talented than Tom Brady. We see how their careers went. It's not always about the physical talent. Rudolph is better mentally than Will Levis right now, plain and simple. He's going to be able to lead that offense at a higher level. He's going to get Tony Pollard more involved out of the backfield in the receiving game, and he's going to lead them to more points than they did last week against the Bengals. The Colts, I have no faith in their offense whatsoever. I think they are going to get stuffed up the middle by the Titans' defensive tackles, and I think they do nothing. I've got the Titans winning this game, but it is going to be a battle of the bad. To completely dismiss the Titans while ignoring the glaring issues with the Indianapolis Colts right now, what happened in the second half of that Broncos game, I don't know, man. It feels like you're not seeing the forest for the trees.
The Colts have a much more competent coaching staff than Brian Callahan and crew over at
A competent coaching staff does not let what happened in the second half of that Broncos game continue. They call a timeout. They do something. They huddle up. They have someone fake an injury.
Unfortunately, the Broncos have a better coaching staff than the Colts do.
I think a lot of teams may have a better coaching staff than the Colts do. Rams taking on the Jets. I have zero faith in Sean McVay and his team traveling all the way across the country, playing outdoors against the New York Jets in a game where there may be rain. There could potentially be snow in this game. I have zero faith. Flipping that over, I also have zero faith in the New York Jets. I got no faith in Aaron Rodgers. I got no faith in Woody Johnson, who is allegedly getting his opinions about player evaluation from Madden ratings. I don't know if I believe that, but the Jets are so incompetent, there's always a chance that really did happen. But I've got to look at this game. I've got to think, okay, what is the funniest possible outcome for this game I'm not invested in at all? And the funniest possible outcome is Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, now that their season is completely lost, start winning out and just beating up on teams and tank their own draft stock. Get themselves picking outside the top 10. Miss out on some of those really talented offensive tackles. That Will Johnson, Travis Hunter, miss out on all the super high-end star guys. Miss out on the chance to draft a replacement quarterback. That is the funniest outcome of this game. So, Rodgers keeps the momentum of last week going, keeps finding Devontae, keeps finding Garrett Wilson, keeps finding Allen Lazard. The running game may be a bit more responsive against a somewhat lackluster Rams defense, at least in the running game. And the Rams offense does not respond well to the cold weather. Puka Nacua is not built for it. Cooper Kupp's kind of built for it. Stafford definitely isn't built for it. There's a reason they played in a dome in Detroit. And they eke out a tough victory. And then you guys say, oh, actually, the Rams defense, the Jets, you're going to come at this game looking at it logically. There is no logic in the New York Jets organization right now. You've got to go off vibes.
They don't have any vibes. The vibes are not immaculate over there in New York when you got your owner taking advice from his 2 teenage sons and as far as which players they should sign.
His teenage son named Brick, by the way. Woody Johnson, billionaire.
Bricked Up Johnson.
Bricked Up Johnson runs a pharmaceutical company, named his kid Brick. That is what we call a setup. But
the Jets won last week, though, albeit versus one of the worst teams in football. And Aaron Rodgers, Mac Jones threw for more yards than him. He threw for, 3 touchdowns?
Devontae Adams ruined my fantasy season.
That's unfortunate for you. But Mac Jones, the only reason the Jaguars did not win last week, because he was productive through the air, was because he threw 2 interceptions to the Jets defense. And Matthew Stafford, he's not going to make those same mistakes. This Jets defense has been flat out bad this year since Robert Saleh has been fired. And Puka Nacua, they're going to be able to push the ball down the field to him. Cooper Kupp held to 0 catches last week in the rain. they're going to be able to get the ball out to him. If weather's going to affect anyone, you'd think it'd more so affect Cooper Kupp, the guy who had 0 catches last week, but I digress. Kyren Williams, he's going to get it going on the ground, and the Rams are going to go into MetLife Stadium and hand the Jets another loss.
MetLife's a dangerous place for the Rams to go with how many injury issues they've had, so I'd be concerned about that too. It might be a strategic move from McVay to just bench all his high-end talented injury-prone starters. Like, we may not see Kupp, Nakua, or Stafford this game, and McVay's intent to protect them and win out after losing this one. They scored 12 points in the rain last week, man. I am not confident in this team. I got the Jets winning. We trust the vibes. The vibes may not be immaculate, but it's going to be a whole lot worse in LA if they lose.
Never trust a man who goes off vibes. Eagles versus especially the vibes Isaiah's going off on that side of the room.
How are you going to feel if I just get all the picks right this week?
You got to put in a 15, 16 leg parlay. Let me know how that goes.
I'll give you that $1 for those gumballs if I hit it.
While I like the Commanders, I think they are a solid team. I also think they've overachieved a little bit this season. Playing the Eagles, I think we're going to see exactly what happened a couple weeks ago against the Cowboys and against the Eagles. When Cooper Rush lit them up against the Eagles, Saquon went for over 200 scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns, dominated them. Last week, we saw Jalen Hurts has the ability to push the ball down the field. A.J. Brown, 11 catches. Devonta Smith, I think, had 9 catches, somewhere around there. Both of them scored touchdowns. He threw for 290 yards. I think we're going to see a similar performance from the Eagles in this one. They're going to get the ball out to the receivers. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a little bit of a bounce-back game after two of not his greatest games of the season over the last 2 weeks, and I think the Eagles get a win.
You're wrong about the method, right about the result. The Eagles threw the ball around last week to appease A.J. Brown and whatnot. The Commies were rolling into that game against the Cowboys without Marshawn Lattimore on a short week. That's not happening. Their pass defense, not bad. They got Mike Sanders still. They got Lattimore now. I don't think they're going to be airing it out as much or get it aired out as much on them. But Saquon Barkley's going for about 250 yards. He's getting right back on pace to break that rushing record, and the Commanders' offense is just not going to be able to keep up against that very talented, elite Eagles defense. Not much needs to be said about this one. I feel bad for the Commanders. They could maybe start fighting their way back for a chance to win the division if they stole this game. The Eagles just fell apart as they have in recent years. It's not happening. Vikings taking on the Seahawks. And it's weird to say about a team which is projected to make the playoffs, but the Seahawks have become a trap opponent for the Minnesota Vikings here. They're rolling into this game with an injured running back, with an injured quarterback, with a pitiful offensive line. But they're playing at home in a very hostile environment, despite what DK Metcalf says. They're playing in the rain. They're still going to have Kenneth Walker, even if Zach Charbonnet is not 100% and ready to go. And the Vikings have shown some issues in the past of playing outside in bad weather, turning the ball over, and giving their opponent prime field position. If Sam Darnold turns the ball over a lot, gives the opponent 2-3 more chances on offense, Kenneth Walker is just going to whittle that clock down. The Seahawks kicker, who is more used to these hostile environments than Will Reichard, is just going to bang through field goals. They're going to get tough touchdowns. The Vikings' run defense with Blake Cashman is very good, but if you keep setting them up on short fields, there's going to be points scored. Looking offensively at the Vikings, Seattle is a very talented defensive line. The secondary, somewhat talented in my opinion. I may have been underselling them a little bit, but you know they're going to bracket Jefferson. You know Addison and Hawkins are going to have one-on-one matchups. And Aaron Jones up the middle should be productive, assuming his fumbling issues do not rear their ugly head again. Ultimately, I'm still picking the Vikings, but this game is going to come down to Sam Darnold and his ability to maintain possession. Even if he doesn't throw it downfield, forced into tight windows, as long as he holds onto the ball, Minnesota's talent will win them this game. Their superior punting staff and special teams will set the Seahawks up for failure. But if he turns it over, they're going to lose. I got the Vikings, though.
Your stream of consciousness when it comes to talking about the Vikings and words per minute is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I actually write notes for them as opposed to anyone else. I do faint doodles on a little sketch app for everyone else. I actually write sentences out for Minnesota.
This Seahawks interior offensive line is just pathetic. I think what we saw last week is that Geno Smith masks some of the issues, although he still gets sacked quite often. And when Sam Howell had to go in, it was just a complete disaster class. I know it's hard for a backup quarterback to get inserted right in the middle of a game and be successful, but the minute he stepped in, hell was raining upon him. He was hitting the turf. It was not a pretty sight to see.
In defense of that, the Packers upped their blitz rate by about 50% against Sam Howell and sent 7 people at him every time. Like, that is partially not his fault. I'm going to fall the Sam Howell grenade there and defend the UNC product. That was not all his fault.
Regardless, whichever quarterback is behind the offensive line next week, we know Geno Smith is going to be a little bit hobbled by injury, so he's not going to be as mobile as he typically is. And this Brian Flores defense, it's creative. He likes to blitz. He's going to take advantage of matchups across the offensive line where he feels like they have an advantage, and they're going to get to the quarterback. They're going to come out of this game with at least 4 or 5 sacks. I don't expect the Seahawks to be really able to run the ball super effectively against this Vikings defense. And we've seen the Vikings this year have a very good offense. Sam Darnold has shown the ability to spread the ball around. TJ Hawkinson is really starting to get going towards the end of the season, which is really good when it comes to the Vikings in the playoffs being able to use their different weapons. So I think the Vikings are going to travel all the way to Seattle, and they're going to get a win.
Something interesting to look at this week with the Vikings as well. They used a lot of 5 defensive end looks against the Bears. They had Pat Jones, Metellus, Dallas Turner, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Grenard on the field at the same time, which is a weird look, but worked against the Bears. We're going to see a lot more Harrison Phillips, a lot more interior defensive linemen on the field this week in an attempt to stop that run. It's unfortunate for Dallas Turner's stats. It's kind of the odd man out, which, hey, they got 3 defensive ends not named Dallas Turner on pace for double-digit sacks. Someone's going to suffer, just so happens to be the rookie. But something to watch for as well, just a big Harrison Phillips game.
Browns headed to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is in for Jameis Winston at quarterback. Will he make a name for himself? Probably not. At least he has the Bengals defense to go against. Maybe that opens up things a little bit for him. Joe Burrow, I think he's dealing a little bit with the aggravated knee injury, but that shouldn't matter. The Bengals are going to, they're going to be at home. They're going to win the game. Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, T. Higgins, they'll get things going against this Browns defense, and I don't expect us to see any fireworks from DTR.
If DTR wanted to make a name for himself, he would have stayed in the UFL. We know he is. He's a known product. There's going to be no name made for himself here. We know what the Cleveland Browns are. Their only hope of winning is he goes down for whatever reason. They put Jameis in early, and Jameis has one of his good games where he's able to keep up with Joe Burrow against this crappy Bengals defense. This game is no consequence. The Bengals aren't technically done for the season. Browns are. Cincinnati's got, 0.5% chance of making the postseason if everyone else in front of them loses out. This game doesn't matter. The Bengals offense is cooking the Browns defense, but should be a relatively high-scoring one. I hope we see a little bit of Jameis down the stretch. Neither here nor there. Not much deep analysis needed. Bengals winning. Not much deep analysis is needed here for the Patriots taking on the Bills at Buffalo. The only way this game is remotely competitive is just an absolute snowstorm. We get a foot of snow on the ground for the game, and that just throws everything out. That is the Bills' only path to losing this game. They're better at every position besides cornerback, and even then, the Bills have a pretty good nickel cornerback whose name is eluding me right now. But they're just the superior team. They've got the MVP frontrunner at quarterback, better running game, better O-line, better coach, handsomer tight ends. It's just the full package, man. The Bills are winning.
I mean, just look what the Bills did over the last 2 weeks against good teams. Josh Allen, 10 total touchdown contributions, over 90 points scored over the last 2 weeks. Against this Patriots team, doesn't have a great defense, doesn't have enough talent around Drake May yet. The Bills are going to win, and they are going to win big in Buffalo.
I don't think they'll ever have enough talent around Drake May to compete with Josh Allen. But is that the new way we're saying it now? We're passing touchdowns instead of just saying, oh, he had 10 total touchdowns. We say touchdown contributions. Josh Allen had 10 touchdowns, man. Come on now.
A passing touchdown is much different than the 5 rushing touchdowns. It was 5 and 5.
Yeah, he had 10 touchdowns.
Do you want me to specify?
I just don't want you to say contributions.
Why not?
Because it's stupid and redundant. He contributed to a touchdown. The offensive line contributes to touchdowns. Did they get that marked on them?
They didn't contribute to a touchdown. Do you see Dan Skipper contributed a touchdown? But
center touches the ball every play. Does he get contributed to touchdowns?
He should.
He should. There we go. We've got a new metric here.
Yeah. Jaguars headed to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The battle of the 2 incompetents. Who will come out on top? At least over the last 3 weeks, the Jaguars have shown more semblance of competency. It's kind of been a shock. We've seen Mac Jones have 2 quality games where he's passed for over 250 yards, I believe, in both instances. 3-point loss to the Texans, a win over the Titans, and a 7-point loss to the Jets, where they still scored 25 points in that matchup. Raiders, They just played the Falcons. That was an ugly game to watch. Desmond Ridder is their third-string quarterback. Clearly still not that guy. Any quarterback they roll out there should probably be a third-string quarterback, with the exception of Gardner Minshew. He should probably be just a second-string quarterback somewhere. But against this Jaguars team, they're going to get the ball out to Brian Thomas Jr. They're going to score more points, and the Jaguars should win. Not that much complicated analysis is needed.
Either way, I got the Raiders. For the sake of contribution, I was going to flip a coin. I'll pick the Raiders. They've got a better offensive line. They've got a better receiving threat out there in Brock Bowers than anything the Jaguars are presenting. Regardless of how great you think Brian Thomas is, Brock Bowers is better, is arguably the best tight end in all football. I'd say I prefer the Raiders defense right now to the Jaguars, but it's the 30th and 31st ranked defense here comparing the two of those. Both these guys, I don't even know if Pearson's not coaching for his job. He's done. I don't know if Antonio Pierce is coaching for his job or if he just doesn't get another year. Either way, I got the Raiders winning at home. Home field matters. Better receiving threats matter. Better running game matters. Can we just go lightning around these last three games? These last three are rough.
49ers Dolphins is kind of interesting.
We'll talk about that when we're going lightning around the last. I mean, do we really need to dwell on the Saints-Packers game? 49ers Dolphins. I'm picking the Dolphins to win this one. It's at home. It's going to be warm weather. The 49ers have just been ravaged by injuries. They're a mess. Scored 6 points in the rain last week. The sky is falling down. Debo may get benched with how he is playing. Trent Williams is done for the year. The defense has been somewhat lackluster. I know they only allowed 12 points, but that was due to weather as opposed to their individual skill. Dolphins take advantage of the opportunities, beat bad teams, and unfortunately the San Francisco 49ers are currently a bad team. So give me Miami.
Yeah, the 49ers, they've won 1 of their last 5 games. They are struggling. They've been destroyed by injury. And this Dolphins team, I don't know how good of a head coach Mike McDaniel is. He doesn't beat teams that are good in the NFL or have above 500 record, but they still run an offense that has the ability to make some big plays. They have a lot of speed on the offensive side of the ball, and I expect that to happen against this 49ers team. I think the Dolphins, they're still somewhat in the playoff hunt.
They're still alive. They're less dead than the Bengals are.
They're going to crawl towards maybe a potential small playoff berth, and I expect them still to win this one.
Feeling the 9-8 record again for Miami. Very impressive, I'm sure. Bucks are winning this game, by the way.
Buccaneers, Cowboys. Cowboys, they won last week. They beat the Panthers. Michael Parsons got things going. Over recent weeks, the defense has looked a little bit better. But when you're this Buccaneers team, since they got Mike Evans back, their offense has been high-flying. Over the course of the season, they have a top 5 offense in the NFL. With Mike Evans, it's even better than that. Baker Mayfield is spreading the ball out. Statistically, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL this season. Bucky Irving has been one of the best rookie running backs. Has he been the best rookie running back?
It's him or Tyrone Tracy.
Let's just say he's been the best rookie running back this season. Phenomenal year for him. They have more talent. The Cowboys certainly are not going to be able to run the ball on this Buccaneers interior defensive line, and I don't expect Cooper Rush to be airing it out on this Buccaneers defense.
Bucky Irving even playing this week?
I'm pretty sure he is.
It appears he's playing. Yeah, Buccaneers are winning. They're the better team. They've got a competent defense. Michael Parsons is going to get put in a cage by Tristan Wirfs. I mean, what more do you need me to say? Their defense, they can step it up against the Panthers, have a fluky Bryce Young bad performance. It ain't happening with Baker. He's a superior quarterback as of right now, despite getting outplayed by Bryce Young earlier in the year. And we'll just have to sit here and absorb this game. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it on Red Zone. I think I might just flip back to horse racing when Red Zone comes on. I'm not joking about that. They have some phenomenal horse racing Sunday afternoons available on your local cable package. Anyway, Saints-Packers. The Packers are 14-point favorites to win this game. The only line bigger than that this year was when the Ravens took on the Giants last week or 2 weeks ago. Need I say more? All my criticisms of the Packers remain. I am maybe willing to improve my opinion of their run defense. It's gotten a little bit better, but their linebackers stink in coverage. Jordan Love has had a sophomore slump, throwing way more interceptions. The injury has hobbled his mobility. He's worse, but Josh Jacobs, high-level player, and they're just better everywhere in the Saints. The Rizzler, he's done for. Derek Carr, David Duke, it doesn't matter who they rob there at quarterback. They're done for. The Saints are a cooked team, and their season ends here.
You're just a Jordan Love hater, and it's okay to admit
I watched
that.
the games, and I said, hey, he's going to be worse. He's not going to come out firing out the game. He said, no, he said the Packers, Dark Horse, they're MVP.
They have 10 wins, right?
Good for them. 2 less than Minnesota.
They play in the best division in football. They are a very good football team.
Sounds like a third-place team to me, but
They'll smoke the Saints. Jake Hayner, Spencer Rattler. It doesn't matter who they throw at quarterback at this point. They don't have any receivers to throw the ball to. Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, still not playing. MVS is their best receiving threat. Maybe they get the ball to Jawan Johnson a little bit. The Packers, they'll be keying in on Alvin Kamara. I don't expect the Saints to get going at all this week. Last week, they got gifted a 1-point loss by the referees stopping the clock way too early. I expect the Packers to cover the point spread, and they should win.
they got gifted a 1-point loss.
It made it look better than it actually was.
It's a unique way of putting it.
They could have gone to over. They would have been gifted. I would have said they were gifted overtime if they went to overtime and took the extra point.
No one who's watching Saints games has been gifted this year.
That has been our Week 16 predictions. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Who is going to make the playoffs a bigger reality for them if they have not clinched already? Like the video, subscribe, use code Thicc on Underdog if you want to check out their playoff best ball contest, where if you win first place, you get $200,000. Our code gives you bonus cash up to $1,000, and we'll see you in the next one.